The Center for the Less Good Idea is calling on artists to submit their artwork towards the Highway Notice project Pause, Breathe. This was created in response to the need for continued physical distancing. Two billboards on the M1 and M2 highways in Johannesburg have been identified to hold this series. For more on this, we are joined by the curator, Bronwyn Lace. Bronwyn, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a bit more about the Highway Notice project. What exactly is required from the artists?
So we're asking artists, both visual and artists who work with text, so writers and poets, to think about what they would like to place in the landscape, in public space, and what we occupy on a daily basis to and fro from work. Particularly in response to this current moment in the world. So it's combinations of image and text that, as a first call, we're asking artists to propose, to send us their work, their aesthetics, just 2 to 5 images, and combinations of words that they think they'd like to place out there as provocations to the public, as reminders to ourselves, as calls for solidarity. And that's a kind of the Highway Notice is about really acknowledging that right now for artists across the discipline, things are particularly difficult, not only in the showing of work, but also in the making of work. And many of the artists, particularly at the Center for the Less Good Idea, spend their lives working collectively and collaboratively. And that has been destroyed at this moment. So we're looking at ways in which we can safely place art back into our lives.
And it's aptly called Pause, Breathe. And already it says a lot. I mean, the artwork, Bronwyn, from the artist should complete that. So what will the artist be judged upon?
I think things that we're not anticipating and surprise us. I think as we find the applications and receive them, and the deadline is the 10th of August, as a committee of people sitting together, we're looking for those things that are unexpected. And that, but we feel resonate with this current moment. And I think we're particularly looking for the ways in which image and representation and visuals work together with words to also create double meanings and possibilities. So the pause, breathe provocation from us is drawn directly from William Kentridge's work, and William is the founder for the Center for the Less Good Idea. And so we're launching it with his 2 provocations, which is just to say those 2 very simple things: pause, breathe, now what?
And as the curator, Bronwyn, you sort of have an idea of what you're looking for, don't you? And what would you then advise someone watching and interested in entering? What should they have in mind when capturing those images?
I think to use their existing body of work, their language, their trajectory, to remember the many languages in South Africa. This is not just about using English. To think about prose and poetry and short word combinations that can be active in the 30 or so seconds that you have somebody's attention when they go past a billboard on the highway. And, you know, this is something that I think is very interesting for artists. It's not like a painting that you can stand in front of for as long as you like. It's about a short, sharp capturing of imagination and attention in a chance audience who happen to be driving past the billboard. The short form is something that we've become very interested in at the Center, and it goes alongside another project, a campaign that we're running at this time in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's called The Long Minute. We've been running that campaign since early April, and I'm about to launch it again now in August as a second series. And it's equally an invitation to artists to send us a minute-long film. Now, this of their work, of their thoughts, of what's happening in their studios or in their homes. This is open to artists of every discipline, from dance to theatre to writing to poetry to visual art to film. And it's about sharing what is happening in your mind and your home and your lives at this time. The first series is on our Instagram and Facebook pages under at Less Good Idea, and I shared 70 from between April and June of the first long minutes, and they were fabulous. We started receiving submissions from across the world, and there's really a very strong story in the ways in which artists reflect upon this very particular and unprecedented time. And I think it's something that the world should be seeing, and people outside of the arts should be also reflecting on alongside artists. So the long minute can equally be sent to the info@lessgoodidea.org address, and I'm also curating that, and I'm very keen to be in dialogue with artists. I think what artists need to know is they can send questions.
It should be a reflective, endeavor, as you've just put it. You chose two of the busiest highways in Johannesburg. So in terms of the message, who are you putting it out to?
Just the hundreds of thousands of people, South Africans, who travel that highway every day, who are all in their own private crises, and having to deal with the consequences of this particular moment, be they health consequences, economic, social, mental, emotional, or psychological. It's to South Africans at large, and at this point we're basing it in Johannesburg on the M1 North and on the M2 West, but we're looking to grow the project, and what is currently in the pipelines is also identifying some of the major LED billboards at the entrance to townships like Soweto and Tembisa, in which we will also be playing the long minutes on different loops for one day of every month.
And who is eligible to enter again? And do share the details on how they can do so. And when is the closing date?
Closing date is the 10th of August by midnight. Okay. In the submissions should come to info@lessgoodidea.org. And it is open to anyone who considers themselves an artist, be that through whichever medium you work in. So it is very open.
Okay, should be very interesting. Bronwyn, thank you so much for chatting to us this morning.
Thanks, Imperial. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Now, the Center for the Less Good Idea is calling for artists to submit word and image proposals for artworks towards the Pause, Breathe endeavor, the Highway Notice project. We just spoke to the curator, Bronwyn Lace, on it. It is 7:42. Let's take a quick break. We'll have more in a moment.